I'm Idiotech, and today I'm going to review Blood Bowl 2. So Blood Bowl 2 is a video game adaptation of the original board game that was first created in 1987 by Games Workshop. At its core, Blood Bowl is a turn-based strategy game that borrows heavily from American football, and it's set in the Warhammer universe. As a result, it's a little bit more violent. Now, before we get into this review, it's important to note that I have no prior experience with Blood Bowl going into this. I didn't play the original games. I've never played a game of Blood Bowl in my life. However, having played about 20 hours of the game now, I can safely say that Blood Bowl, the original game, the core mechanics of Blood Bowl, are excellent, and I'm having a ton of fun playing this as a strategy game. The problem is that Cyanide Studios, the developer of Blood Bowl 2, didn't really create those mechanics, so it's difficult to review this game in a sense because I've got the original game in one hand, and then I've got this sort of adaptation, this client in the other. So I'm going to sort of approach it in that way. So in my near 20 hours of play with this game, I haven't experienced any game-breaking bugs. When I first loaded up the game, I did have an issue where the game thought I was playing with an Xbox controller when I wasn't, and I had to go in and edit a config file. I'm not sure if that's been fixed or not, so you might want to check the forums. In terms of the online features, it seems pretty stable, and the performance is solid with the game running at 60 FPS consistently. The problem for PC users at least, is that it has one of the most appalling options menus I've ever seen in a game at this price point. It amazes me that some developers still can't provide users with a solid set of options, and I have to deduct points for this. Overall though, the game runs fine. It just has the worst graphics options menu ever made. When compared with Blood Bowl 1, this game is visually superior in every single way. However, when compared to other games at this price point, it's a little lacking if I'm honest. It doesn't really detract from the game in any serious way, but models are noticeably lacking in detail and texture work doesn't quite hold up during close-ups. I've also noticed that the game has some clipping issues with certain animations, and I think it could do with a little bit more work here. When it comes to the menus and the in-game UI, the game's pretty solid and again a big improvement over Blood Bowl 1. However, it's obvious that this game was designed with consoles in mind, and this results in vital information not being accessible when you need it, or having to back in and out of certain menus to do certain things. It's kind of irritating at times, and I really hope they improve it. Sound is done well for the most part. Crowds, announcers, and combat all sound great and hold up well. The music suits the setting fine. I don't really have any complaints in this regard. It doesn't stand out, it's not particularly excellent, but it holds up relatively well. Overall, the presentation here is a little lackluster, and while far better than the previous game, I would have liked to have seen a little bit more polish here if I'm honest when you consider the amount of money that this game costs. This game offers a single-player campaign, multiplayer and single-player leagues, friendly matches which can be played versus the AI or with a friend, and a team management feature that lets you create a team, sign sponsors, and upgrade your own personal arena. The campaign is by far the worst feature on offer here. You can play as a coach of a failing team called the Reichland Reavers, and you take them from zeros to heroes, essentially. Now, this mode is supposed to serve as a tutorial for new players. The problem is that it's not a very good tutorial. In fact, it's pretty awful, and this game is incredibly complex, has a ton of depth. There's an 80-page rulebook, so you need to do a pretty good job explaining these mechanics to people, and it simply fails to do that. Not only this, but you can't choose which kind of team you want to make. You can't play as a team that you've created, and so you end up being forced to play this team you don't really care about, you're not hugely invested in, and it just left me feeling kind of bored with the results and honestly not very interested in this mode. Overall, I think time could have better been spent elsewhere improving other aspects of the game. I think the tutorial isn't very good. I don't think it serves the game very well. Now, the core feature of this game is the league system, and anyone can create a league and anyone can participate in a league. The cool thing about leagues is that they're persistent, and your team will earn experience and level up, gaining new skills and income each time you play a match. This is by far the best mode in Blood Bowl 2. It's where you'll spend the majority of your time, and the progression system adds a sense of tension and reward to the game, which makes you want to play even when you've had a frustrating match. It's simply awesome. The friendly matches are quite pointless, and I don't really see why they're there, but I guess for people who don't want to engage in the league system, it's there, so, you know, fine, it's good that it's there, I guess. I don't really see the point of it. When it comes to team management and creation, there is a ton a ton of customization here, both on a visual and gameplay level, and it's great that you can name each of your players because it helps to add a sense of immersion. You start to care about your team, you become attached to people. If players die, you kind of get upset about it. It's cool. It has that XCOM vibe if you've ever played XCOM. And it makes the whole game just fun to progress through. There are currently 8 races in the game, and I honestly feel that isn't enough. The previous game had over 20 races, and granted a lot of these were introduced with expansions, but Blood Bowl 2 still feels lacking in this respect. New races will be added in the form of DLC going forward, and there has as of yet been no official announcement on how they will be priced, and that's a concern for me. There is so much to talk about when it comes to progression and team management in this game, and I just don't have time to cover it. However, what I will say is that for me, it's one of the most rewarding aspects of the game, and I really, really enjoy how it's implemented here. So this is where things get complicated. The game offers a ton of strategic depth, and for lovers of turn-based strategy, you'll likely find a lot to enjoy here. That being said, with that depth comes a severe learning curve, and for those of you who are not willing or don't have the time or inclination to read rulebooks or watch YouTube videos, you might want to give this game a miss. Personally, I love the core mechanics on offer here, and my only real complaint from a design perspective is the length of each match. Games can run up to the hour mark, and that does mean that you really have to commit some serious time to this game if you want to get the most out of it. Another thing I need to talk about here is RNG and dice rolls. The game being based on a board game does mean that it involves a lot of dice rolls and randomness, and this can lead to frustration at times. That being said, knowledge, skill, and correct execution can mitigate a lot of the randomness, and so the outcome of the game isn't solely determined by luck in any way. The best comparison I can think of here is poker. Yes, poker is random, you will experience bad beats from time to time, but players with more knowledge and skill will always come out on top, and the same can be said about Blood Bowl. From a design perspective, I think Blood Bowl is an excellent game, but as I said in the introduction to this video, that can't really be accredited to Cyanide Studios. So I'm honestly a little torn here in terms of my recommendation. I've had a great time playing Blood Bowl 2, and in part that's due to the work of Cyanide Studios, and in part that's due to the original game's excellent design. That being said, there are a number of issues in relation to the interface design, the overall polish, and they need to be addressed moving forward. Not only that, but the tutorial needs to be significantly improved. I'm also very concerned about the DLC teams that will be added to the game in future. As of right now, the developers have not stated what each race will cost when it releases, and I am worried about that, because I think it may be too high price-wise when you consider the initial base price of the game. If you are the type of person who loves strategy games and are willing to invest time learning a game or putting the extra time in required to be good at something, then I think you'll get a lot out of this game. If you're an avid Blood Bowl player and you've been playing the previous game and you're looking for an update, I think you should pick this game up. However, for everyone else, I think it's safer to wait and see how the business model pans out and maybe pick this game up once it goes on sale. That was my review of Blood Bowl 2. If you guys have your own thoughts and feelings about this game, feel free to let me know in the comments. Otherwise, like, favorite, share, and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.